Welcome back, Demian, magical, mystical Demian Haye, to introduce you to Demian again, a master in his own right, really, and has been living in Guatemala the past several years, India for 16 years before that, and offers a myriad of teachings, healings with a quantum foundation to light language. So this week, we are speaking about something that feels very relevant to the path of healing, the path of mastery, essentially the spiritual path, the shamanic path, any path essentially that requires the individual to shine through as connected to the divine. And so the theme is focus and the will to heal. And specifically focus, the will to heal, connected to mastery, and where loneliness can pop up along the path. Let's start off with the first question, which is for you, Demian. How did you, and how do you still cultivate the will to heal, to keep showing up for this work? And yes, you offer healing work, but also your own healing. What does it take?
I mean, that's a really good question. So personally, I would say that for me, my healing journey started when I realized that, let's say, the medical establishment or the people that are somehow in charge of the healing in the Western world, or at least when I was a teenager, when I saw that they were not competent enough to help me. And then even I had some mistakes done. Yeah. So for example, one of my first trips to India, I got some really bad bugs in my stomach. I had many months of diarrhea, and so they gave me some pills that destroyed my entire ecosystem, my flora. And then when I went finally to see a naturopath, this naturopath told me that, I just destroyed my body just by trusting medical establishment. So for me, it was, the initiation of, okay, I need to educate myself. And so for me, the focus comes first from education. It means self-empowerment. I don't truly believe, that healers can help in a way that they would heal us. Healers provide the space so that we can self-heal. So the more education we have, the more work we can do on ourselves, and eventually we can, gain enough, let's say, mastery or confidence that we can, hold most of the time, not always, a healing space for ourselves. So it starts with, also for me, it started with a belief that I was not pure enough.
Interesting.
Strangely. So seeking constantly purification, like
interesting.
The quest for something that I could not grasp, or at least at the beginning it was this obsession. So juice diet, different clans, a lot of memory clearing, karmic clearing, any kind of clearing that would exist. I was kind of really attracted to it.
Yeah.
Because there's something that felt for me corrupted in my field. Something that felt tainted. And it took me a long time to understand that actually the taint is in everyone. It's inbuilt somehow in the planetary grids and in our DNA. And it's not through, let's say, conventional healing, even in the alternative world, that we would remove this taint and this corruption. For me, the will, so the focus, as you asked, so the will to heal, it comes from my fascination for death.
Yes.
Because for me, the most important moment of my life will be, so of course it's here and now, we can say, but eventually it will be the moment where I leave this body. Because I do personally believe that my last thought, and let's say my last energetic context or attachment or the resonance will define what happens at the moment where I leave my body, or I just move to the next step. Yeah, so this is my main motivation to keep on the healing. I am aware that whoever I give my energy to today, so whatever I'm fascinated with, obsessed with, whoever I work for, whatever is part of my life, is feeding different egregores that are literally waiting for me at the moment of my death. And that when I am, let's say, dissociated from my physical incarnation, these egregores will claim me as they claim, anyone. And so for me, the healing, which literally in Greek means to become whole again, it's about somehow reclaiming enough power. So it's less now about purity, when at the beginning it was a lot about purity, but it's more about reclaiming enough power so that I can claim sovereignty at the moment of my death, and that I don't have to be claimed by different egregores that I got connected to through my life journey. So because I really don't want to be recycled again, what people call reincarnation, that when I was discovering this world, I thought it was cool as a concept, until I now believe that this is actually the recycling in the same prison over and over again. So for me, not to be recycled, I need to heal. So it means I need to become whole again. I need to become sovereign. I need to create a light body that can survive death and that can host my conscious memory. So for me, the will and the focus to show up, as you asked, it comes from there. Because maybe I die tomorrow. It can come any moment, like Castaneda says, death waiting on the left, on the body watching us, and it can claim us, any moment. It's not, we don't know. So we have to be kind of ready. And to be ready, it means that we need always to reclaim our power and to reclaim our, my power, my sovereignty, so that, and to build this body so that actually I can, let's say, prevail after death. As a living consciousness.
Yeah, I really hear you there. And how, wow, you touched on so many interesting themes. How the will to heal comes from the will to die well in order to transition well. And because like what you teach with the doubling of time and the double and your last thought, and it has to be the last thought in order to actually communicate with the double. This is what it reminded me of, and how a day, for example, is the micro fractal of the life. So if let's take the day and your last thought as the very thing that's going to weave into the dreaming, which will weave into the next day, which is the new life, then of course the last thought, the very last thought of your life is what is going to set up that next phase wherever you go, whenever you go, however you go. I would love to just hear from you briefly, for people who don't actually know what egregores mean. Would you mind please defining that?
The best way I would say, so an egregore, it's like a world.
Yeah.
So a world, so you have many different worlds, and you have every concept, every idea, every, let's say, informational field is a world in itself. So you have many different kind of worlds with different virtues, intelligences. So every human is connected to many different worlds. And so the egregores, they are this kind of self-conscious worlds where they develop their own intelligence and they have their own agenda. Let's like just take, for example, an example of greed. Yes, of people who live their life for greed. Capitalists. Always more money, more money. Well, when they die, I believe they are claimed by the egregore of greed.
Interesting.
that enslaves them and recycles them as a servant to greed, until they can break free. Let's say somebody all in his life would take medical pills, allopathic pills every day. Well, they are dedicated their life to big pharma.
Yeah.
So when they die, they're claimed by big pharma egregore,
wow,
which is chemical enslavement.
Yeah.
So if people would serve truly compassion or in their life, or they would really charity, or something that would be really selfless, let's say the kind of karma yoga, always in service to others, let's say, then they would somehow, the egregore would be more selfless, and it would be a more compassionate, energy that connects at the moment of death. So whoever we serve in our lifetime claims us at death.
Yeah.
And when I say who, because it's self-conscious, it's actually a real intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It makes me think of, for example, repeated thoughts creates this, or I guess you could say a morphogenetic field, honestly, a resonance. And that builds, and then it becomes its own separate entity to an extent. And that's really, really interesting. Like, for example, these limiting beliefs that we experience, these stories, the fear, for example, just comes in. It's like, oh, hey.
It's a cluster of memory. That's where the word comes from in Latin or Greek. I think it's more Greek. So like the Gregarian instinct. So it's something that comes together. So that's like also we could say a morphogenetic field in this sense. But it's considered in the ancient mystery school, like the Essene school, the egregore, they are like the intelligence of the memory. And every memory, every living memory, it's like a being, so it's like an intelligence. So then they cluster and they congregate together as, let's say, with some common theme or common, aspects. And these are like this kind of higher dimensional, self-conscious field of information, but that is a living memory that is constantly fed by whoever connects to this field, and whoever speaks, acts, thinks in relationship to this, let's call it informational field or memory field, we could say.
Yeah, living memory makes a lot of sense, because memory implies something. There's an animation, there's a scene, there's something moving alive within that. Thank you for explaining this. I wanted to speak to for a moment the initial inspiration to walk the path of coming from this desire to be more pure, or a need or a calling for purity, feeling like there was something corrupted, impure. And I definitely know for myself what really started me on this path was also due to health. There was this something in the physical that needed addressing. And that's what snapped me out of the mold of that regular allopathic model of health, of education even. And it opened the door to the other, the alternative, let's say. Step by step, more reveals itself to you. And then the more you know, the more things contradict each other, which is also interesting. And I feel this speaks to even mastery, how mastery is beyond having to harmonize with everything. Mastery is actually more frequency. It's more the manifestation or the expression of focus, of the will to heal, of the will to know, the will to die well. I mean, mastery is an interesting word. They say 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours. To define mastery seems maybe less quantitative and more experiential. What do you feel the connection is between focus, mastery, and loneliness on this path?
That's a good question, well formulated. From my perspective, master or mastery defines discipline.
Yes.
For me, there's relationship here. To discipline So when I apply discipline, it means I become a disciple. Yeah, that's the same root, right?
Yeah.
So I am a disciple in discipline. So I am a disciple in, or of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mastery is when I become authority. So let's say my higher self, the big brother, you could say. So the higher, chakras, you could say as well, becomes the authority, and the lower self, or the little brother, or the lower chakras, become the disciple.
Yeah.
So when we apply discipline, we are honoring our own authority, which is a sovereign expression of who we are and how we want things to be done, and what are our values, our virtues. So this is connected with loneliness, because in this interaction of I am my own master, so which means I am the authority, I am as well my own disciple. So I trust my own authority to guide me well, or to show me the way, or to have enough clarity, or to make sense, coherence. Then, this interaction, I am alone. Yeah, because in this own sovereignty and surrendering to my own authority, well, if I start to leave or allow other influences to come, then what happens is that I create a culture.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a cult.
Yeah.
My own dynamic of authority and discipline, so my own master and my own disciple, I replicate it, or it inspires people that want to apply, let's say, the same recipe. Yeah, because they see that it works. So when it's replicated, then it becomes a culture.
Yes.
Yeah, like cultivate.
Yes.
Yeah, it's replication. Yeah, so this is for me the true, for me at least at this moment of my life. True mastery is not about replication, because replication, it induces imitation.
Yes.
And so there is a power in a repetition, imitation, and replication. There is a power of, like to beat a drum with a stick in a steady rhythm. And then you have these resonant frequencies, this humming that comes, and that, pervades everything. So you have a power there. But when I think, or I connect to the concept of mastery, there's something really unique that adapts, or is a unique reflection of my own unique code, as your own mastery also reflects your own unique, design, let's say. So for me, it cannot be based on imitation. So for example, in the Eastern countries, like in India or Asia, you can sit at the feet of the master to get, inspired, to get downloads, to be based in the grace of the presence of the master, but they cannot teach you how to masterize your own self. It's something that is, it's your own journey. You cannot imitate it. So the recipe that works for this master doesn't necessarily work for you. So for me, the loneliness comes from, of not giving birth to a culture. And today, a lot of things happen like this, which, in this age of Aquarius, where it's all based on information and code, then as soon as people find some power, so it means some, maybe a control, or let's say an elegant and graceful expression of their code, they want to brand it. I know, I've been there. They want to brand it and share it and say, hey, use my code and pay me, right? And this is, and I don't say it's bad, it's okay. This is what's happening all over the world. This is not about mastery. Mastery is when, so you can get inspired and follow someone's code or dynamic, or, processes, protocols, to find some confidence, to find the right place where you can access your own relationship with source, with your own master, with your own disciple. But eventually the expression of it has to be unique.
Yes.
So in this uniqueness, or let's say in this personal expression, then it's lonely.
Sure.
Yeah, it's lonely. It's lonely in the sense that nobody can truly help you.
Yeah.
People can inspire you. People can reflect, can sound bored. People can, just make you feel contained or supported. But,
Yeah.
the journey to connect and dare to actually shine our unique expression of who we are as a divine self, let's say, then this is extremely lonely.
Yeah.
In a good way, it's lonely because it's this quality time with
Yeah.
God, with source, as the quality time of a parent with the child, it's this kind of 101 VIP, private,
Yeah.
like no distraction. This is healing. For me, healing is between us and, let's say, this eternal aspect of creation and how we relate to it. So as
Yeah.
soon as somebody interferes, or as soon as we say, hey, I'm going to do like the other,
Yeah.
we enter a culture.
Yes.
Well,
Imitation,
culture
repetition.
have never led to mastery.
Sure. It's like this, well, culture breeds conformity. In order for culture to sustain itself, it needs it to replicate in a similar way. And anything that transcends the limits of the culture is seen as a threat. And that's really interesting in terms of mastery, how if you think about in the modern world, or at least in the West, the importance is placed so much on this collective, the collective, the collective, the collective. And perhaps this is something to do with the age of Aquarius, very humanitarian, very much for the collective. And yet there's the rebelliousness to the age of Aquarius as well. Well, Aquarius as an archetype. So that's really interesting how still these, the contemplation even of mastery in a time like this is actually so ripe and so real and so necessary, because mastery is not celebrated or deemed important from my awareness in the modern time. With one of my other teachers right now, there's the conversation about the 1 week shamans. Copy paste shaman is another one. And how in this time of instant gratification, of fast moving, of more knowledge, as you said, the codes, and how actually it was one of you in your latest videos, I believe you're talking about it. It's less about items, it's more about code, and how code, it's not so physical, and so it can be quite fast. And so I feel this connection between more code, more has taken away from what is actually required to master a code. Let's say if a code can be reduced to a single code. And mastery as connected to focus, as connected to loneliness, with the will to keep going. In order to focus, well, if you're in a whole soup of people, how are you going to focus? And focus then reaches a point of even obsession. And maybe obsession isn't actually so bad. There's obsession in the modern time comes with somewhat of a negative quality. The obsession, oh no, that's bad. It's almost tied to addiction. And yet maybe a dose of healthy obsession is what's needed, that there's actually something that we're doing that we can get obsessed over, that we do want to master, that will to commune with the divine in order to individuate, to become our unique code, the essence of who we truly are. And as you said, nobody can teach us that. That's ours to learn, that's ours to discover. And yet the outside world can be very tempting, like in the Matrix, right? The red dress. It's so real. It's very real. The temptations of the outside to convince you this system is the system. That belief is the belief. As you said, it's not copy paste. If it works for you, that doesn't mean it's going to work for me. And yet we're so wanting to give our power to the outside. We're so wanting for the outside to just tell me, please, what do I do? How do I do the thing? And the will to take the power back and to recognize that the answers are within and up. around source. This is confronting because that's self-responsibility. And this really speaks to how if people really recognize the degree of self-responsibility that's required to learn who we truly are, beyond the false layers of self, beyond the masks, beyond the conditionings of the outside world, to really discover us, our essence, that requires a degree of self-responsibility not many people want, it seems. And I can definitely speak for myself when I keep meeting these blocks and the self-responsibility that's required to own it. Oh, it's so tough. To wrap this up, I'd love to just hear from you again. How has it been for you within this? Well, yeah, more specifically, when you have met the blocks and you've met these temptations, for example, from the outside to really convince you that this is the system, this is the thing, take you away from looking within. Have you experienced that? Have you experienced this pull to the outside instead of coming back to your center? And what has that taken to be self-responsible and come back to that focus, come back to the will, and then keep going?
It happened to me many times in my life where because I love cults, I just love it. I love cultures,
Yeah.
right? Because there is a higher level of order and coherence because of the replication, because of the amount of people using the same code. That feels really safe, really, it makes a lot of sense. And therefore, for me, when I was younger, it would bring this idea that, it could be the truth, or there could be some powerful keys there. Yeah, so at some point, I got brainwashed, and I call it brainwashed, but in a beautiful way. So I got cultivated.
I love
that. By Hare Krishna, or the whole Vedic culture. So then after the yoga and the devotion, beautiful. Then I went more into, psychedelics, plant medicines, where it's also a cult. It's also a culture. It's more self-empowered because it's more you and your own experience. But it's something that, it's also a cultivation. So it's also a brainwashing in some sense because of the interaction with the, whatever medicines or, intelligence is there. And then I went back to more, ancient Vedic teachings, which was also a cult. It was a cult in the sense that it would give you guidelines about how to live your life, and then, I had to come out because I felt that I was drowning myself into something that I had not enough clarity about, or not enough control, or it was not enough sovereign to my, Western mind taste. So, so of course, I think everyone, we are getting the call to get, influenced, let's say. And this is how we learn, because to learn who am I also have to experience who am I not.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is how it works. And of course, you get keys and tools and skills. And there are some, pieces of truth and, precious gifts in whatever distractions or whatever school of thought. Of course, because otherwise it would not have, survived, or the resilience of some, field. It means that there's something solid there. It's just that it's not flexible. It's usually, dogmatic or with a rigid approach or point of perception. At the end, what I believe, mastery, it's about allowing ourselves to shift our point of perception according to the situation in a way that we can, so that, we can just be who we are, and we can adjust, and we can, have more compassion.
Yes. The adjustment. Very much so.
The adjustment.
The repivot, and then centering again. Yeah, completely. Awesome. Thank you. This felt short and sweet because time flies in these with you, which is amazing. It's also a testament to the potency and the richness of what you have to share and how, yeah, captivating it is. So thank you. Well, to wrap up, beyond a thank you, I'd also love to give you the space to speak for a minute or however long you feel about this upcoming course you have with the Grids Master. If you feel to share now, or you just want to send people to the link, whatever feels good for you.
So yeah, thank you. So this is actually, I'm gonna probably launch the offer for the 11/11, so like next Friday.
Great.
And so it's called Grid Masters, and somehow, yeah, this is, I would say, the masterpiece that I'm able to give birth to these days, which is my creation, not in the sense of, let's say, that I am giving birth to it, so it uses my code, my flavor, my my own inner scape as a creation. So it's of course something that I'm birthing, and I'm not the creator of it. I'm the creator of the form, not of the essence.
Yeah, well said.
And I believe that this is a skill that can be applied to everything in life. And it's about what we spoke. It's about our code, and it's about how to organize our code, our design, in a way that we can be more efficient, more clear, more powerful when we share it. So whatever we share, it can be from, a woodworker to a cook to a teacher at school, or somebody doing really spiritual things.
Yeah.
Or an athlete, or a fisherman. It doesn't matter what you do. You're still using, resources that your consciousness is connected with to do whatever you do. I believe we can do it in a way that is more coherent, it's more efficient, and as well it can be more graceful and more, let's say, beautiful. So you have a masculine and feminine aspect there. So this is what this technology is about. It's to be able to coherently organize our design, our code, so that we can interact in a more graceful way with, with others and with reality.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds really fascinating.
About it.
Yay. Cool. I love the way you speak about it. It sounds really applicable to anybody's life. Well, who wouldn't want to live more coherently? So all that information will be down below. Thank you so much, Demian. I really appreciate your time to speak with me and share your wisdom and knowledge in such a beautiful way. So thank you.
Thank you.